Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jackson Show. I'm your host, Jackson Solomon, and today we are going to be going over the entirety of the college football playoff up to this point. I know I was supposed to put my predictions in. I just kind of dropped the ball on a little bit of college football after conference championship week. I took my bye, but I am back. We're going to talk about each and every game from the first round to the quarterfinal round. So please leave a like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on. These episodes are going to be coming out more rapid fire in 2026. I know the football season's almost near its end, but there's so much football to talk about that it's nearly like I'm going to still upload each and every week just to offer an update. Like when the offseason gets here and we're talking ball, I feel like I might just to give a little update. No football, just to give a little update on the football world and what's going on, just to help the fans stay involved all the way up until the draft, through free agency, end of the summer, team previews, all that we're going through. I'm going to drop an episode tomorrow, hopefully. I'm definitely going to get the NFL playoff predictions in for this week, so you don't want to miss any of that. So please, please, please stay up to date. Leave a like, leave a comment. Okay, so I missed the entirety of the college football playoff first round, so that's where we're going to start. We're going to start in Norman, where the actual college football playoff, this is just going to be in order. Alabama versus Oklahoma. The second meeting between these two teams, the first one in Norman this season. Alabama took care of business 34-24. Oklahoma, it came crumbling down in that second half. Tate Sandel missed a kick. They weren't able to score a touchdown. Life just got a lot harder at the end of this game for Oklahoma. And I look at OU and I say, this was the prove it game for Alabama. It kind of proved that, hey, we deserve to be in the playoff. I look at Oklahoma and I say, man, that's rough. You go up 17-0 and you just kind of drop out and lose the game. That is one of the most difficult things. Alabama didn't really have a decent offense, but they came up when they needed a score. They got a score. And Oklahoma, that's tough to take. I had Alabama winning that game. So let me just get that out of the way. My predictions for the first round: Alabama, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Had basically all those teams. Miami goes to College Station. They beat Texas A&M. And really, when I was thinking about this game after it happened a couple of weeks ago, I was really thinking that with Texas A&M, first of all, are we surprised? No. But Texas A&M, they were unbattle tested all week. They were unbattle tested all season. Their toughest game, I look at the schedule, their toughest game was against Arkansas. Like, they had a close game against the 2-10 Arkansas team. Granted, Arkansas played everyone close, but the point I'm trying to make is they played no one. They get to the playoff. It was a windy day, a lot of missed kicks, and they threw the ball 40 times. Marcel Reed had 2 turnovers. And it's almost like Mike Elko, he had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. The preparation that went into the game just kind of non-existent there. And that hurt. That was bad. Wasn't very good. Ole Miss and Tulane. Tulane goes to Ole Miss for the second time this season. It was Ole Miss's first game without Lane Kiffin. This season, Ole Miss scores 41 points. They go crazy. And the final score, 41-10. Tulane just couldn't get things going. I think that home environment for Ole Miss was just too much. I think for Tulane, the home environment for Ole Miss was too much to overcome for Tulane. They weren't able to get the job done as expected. Oregon, wouldn't really call that defying, but they scored 51 points against James Madison in the first round, 51-34. Not really going to break down that game much. Speed of the Ducks. Going into the second round of the college football playoff, Miami took on Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl Classic. And I'm just going to have a little side jargon here. Dan Lanning is 100% right. If you watch Dan Lanning press conference and what he said about the college football playoff, he said that these second round games, these first and second round games, should be held on college campuses because that's how playoffs are run. I 100% agree. That's how the NFL playoffs works, and that's what the sport is basically going to with the 12-team playoff. Have the games be in Lubbock, in Athens, in Ohio State, in Bloomington, because I guarantee if you send Oregon and Alabama and Ole Miss and Texas A&M, or excuse me, in Miami to be the visiting team at a home game for Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, it's going to be a lot closer. It's going to be a lot competitive, and an advantage goes to the teams that got the buys. The teams that get the buys, they get a month off. They get a neutral site game. That doesn't really seem fair. I agree with Dan Lanning. These games should be home games. And then once you get to the semifinal round, I think it's fair. Yes, you can have a neutral site quarterfinal game like it was in the 4-team era. That seems fair to me. All right, getting off track here. Miami and Ohio State. This was one of the 2 college football playoff games I watched in its entirety. I watched a little bit of the other games, did not see from start to finish these games. But Miami and Ohio State, there's a little bit to talk about with this. Miami, they were the more physical team up front. Ohio State, and I was thinking about this earlier, Ohio State had weaknesses exposed by Indiana. But the other part was Ohio State didn't play anybody. They had no competition throughout the entirety of that season. You can argue Michigan, but outside of Michigan, who? Texas? I mean, Texas got better after Arch got injured and came back. I look at the schedule, I say, what? Illinois, Michigan, Texas, those are your toughest games. Illinois is got one foot in the grave. Michigan doesn't have a head coach. And Texas, like I said, they really didn't get the ball rolling until after Arch Manning came back from his injury late in the year. So you play a team like Indiana that's a complete team. You lose. You play a team like Miami that has maybe one of the most dominant defenses that you're ever going to face. Yeah, things are going to get rough out there, especially for Julian Sayin, who I don't even think is that good of a quarterback. I think he's carried by his wide receivers, Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, and that he's going to miss Carnell Tate very much when he heads to the portal. I don't care if you pull the next 5-star receiver out of recruiting. What matters to me is, does he make your quarterback better? Yeah. What happens when teams like Miami shut that down? Jeremiah Smith, 7 catches, 100-something yards, and a touchdown, which I give him full credit for. I give him 100% credit. I say, good job, Jeremiah Smith. Where's everything else? You couldn't run the ball on that physical front, which was an issue for Ohio State very early in the season, and things just didn't work out. Oregon, Texas Tech is the second game I look at. I was talking about this game with some other people, and we came to the conclusion this was a defensive shutdown. Texas Tech, their issue all season, right? Oregon wins the game. Their issue all year was they had problems. They had issues scoring points. Behren Morton had 2 interceptions in this game. Dante Moore didn't throw for a touchdown pass. But I still believe, very much so, Dante Moore is not that good of a quarterback. But when I look at Oregon, and I say, what makes Oregon football the best? What makes Oregon football good? I say the ground game. I say their ability to get stops on defense. Their defense is really good. That secondary is dominant. Up front, they're good. They're really good. This is a good football team. Straight up. I've got nothing else to say. We're the best football teams in the country. They deserve their quarterback. I just can't sign on with them. I can't do it. I go to the next semifinal round, the Rose Bowl game, Indiana versus Alabama. This is where we start to kind of, the SEC controversy comes up. Is the SEC dying? No. But this is the same situation last year where it's not the same, but it's very similar to the same situation last year where you ask me, is the SEC a dying breed? No, because Texas is in the semifinal round. The teams that the SEC had a couple of teams get in. Most of those teams got embarrassed. I think Georgia, Oklahoma left the playoff embarrassed. Alabama left the playoff embarrassed. Georgia did not play its best football game at all, and Texas A&M left the college football playoff embarrassed. You got one team left. That one team is Ole Miss. They don't have a head coach. They have one of the best offenses you're ever going to feel or you're ever going to see, and defenses are going to feel that. And the real question is really who can stop their offense? Clearly the answer is Lane Kiffin. The answer to the question is Lane Kiffin. But yeah, Lane Kiffin can stop that offense. But getting back to the game, Indiana, I said it before, they're the most complete football team this season. Good offense, good defense. They're very strong up front. And so they had an injury on the defensive line heading into this game, and you're kind of wondering, is Indiana going to have issues on that defensive front? The answer would be no. They'd still be dominant. They'd still look the same way. As a matter of fact, this win versus Alabama, incredibly more impressive than win over Ohio State, just because this is a playoff team. This is a team that is really good, and you beat them. You blew them out. And Alabama sent a lot of blitzes, but they weren't able to stop the run. It's their one weakness. It's the one thing that they're going to have to figure out and fix. You can't stop the run. You can't run it. What are you doing? That's not Alabama football. Alabama football shut down. They're able to run the ball. But Kalen DeBoer, his style of offense, even though Dylan Johnson was a really good running back at Washington, his style of football is we're going to go in, we're going to air it out about 40 times a game, we're going to outscore you. Only put up 3 points. Those 3 points came to backup quarterback in the game. Ty Simpson still has eligibility left, but the guys on the bench behind him, eager to take a spot. Portal closes, I think, January 17th. A lot of players are eager. If I'm the backup, if I'm Mac, I'm Russell, I'm eager to kind of see what he does. If I'm Ty Simpson, because there were a lot of reports coming out, or a lot of mock drafts had him going inside the top 5 this year. Not looking so good now. Last semifinal game, which was the other game I watched in its entirety, Ole Miss versus Georgia. I did watch until about the 1 second mark, and then I kind of cut it off. This was a back and forth battle. Georgia had a lot of advantage. They had an advantage at halftime. They were dominant. And then Ole Miss came back. They drove. They came back. They were able to win the game. Trinidad Chambliss, I emphasized this in the middle of the season, but Trinidad Chambliss really should be the Heisman Trophy winner because of how he plays. First of all, he's got the drip. He's got the aura, right? He to me, should have won the Heisman this year. I don't think... I get it. Fernando Mendoza, honestly, he was the best player on the best team, but it should have went to Trinidad Chambliss. Trinidad Chambliss is really good. And so if it's Ole Miss Indiana in that final game, I'd watch that game. Back to the point I'm trying to make. Georgia in the second half. And this is completely uncharacteristic of the Georgia team that we're familiar with, because the Georgia team the last 2 seasons, they would have a terrible first half, they'd come out in the second half, and they'd play even better. It didn't happen in this game. And I'm not going to say kind of confusing, but it was very weird to watch Georgia get Georgia. It was weird to me. It was weird to me. And then so that does it for the recap so far, right? But in that quarterfinal round, I had Georgia beating Ole Miss. I had Texas A&M beating Ohio State, which can't happen anymore because both those teams are eliminated. Oregon beating Texas Tech and Indiana beating Alabama. So I still have Indiana and Oregon left. I have Indiana going to the national championship game. I could still get some points for that, but I had Georgia going to the title game. I had them winning it all this year. I just kind of I believed in the hype where Georgia is one of those teams where they go undefeated and they only lose one game to one team, but you beat the team that you lost to in the conference championship game. So I'm believing in your hype. I believe you're the best team in the country, and it might be at this point postseason Miami this year. It might be Indiana, which I don't think a lot of people said that. Like, nobody could have seen that coming. Oregon is really good. I think we really have narrowed it down to the 4 best teams in the country. And the question I'm going to get asked a lot is, you like the 14 playoff? You think that college football should have stayed there, Jackson? Do you like this year's playoff? And I'm going to say it's way better than last year's. I like how the first round, you had 2 very interesting games, a defensive battle, and a comeback. And the quarterfinal round, the games you had didn't disappoint. I do think the home game idea, if we're going to keep the 12-team playoff, which, I mean, I like the 4-team playoff, I like the 8-team playoff, but if we're going to keep it where it is right here, right now, the quarterfinal round, to me, has to be home games. These 1 seeds, it's almost like Oregon doesn't want to go to the Big Ten title game because they know if they win, they get a bye. If they lose, higher chance of them being out. Right? Miami didn't even... You want to make the college football playoff, take lessons from Miami, where they had a quality win over Notre Dame. They go to... they don't go to the title game. They get in as an at-large, and they start their playoff on the road. They dominate Texas A&M. They dominate Alabama. They're in the semifinal round. Now, I want to wrap the episode up by giving my predictions for this semifinal round. The Verbo Fiesta Bowl is this Thursday, 7:30 on ESPN. I'm going to take Miami. The Hurricanes. I think I've said it all video, but they're really the more physical team. I like that they're the more physical team. And Ole Miss, only one coach is staying at Ole Miss for Ole Miss. And I don't think that is going to be enough. I like Trinidad Chambliss. I like their offense, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And then in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, it's Oregon versus Indiana. These 2 teams met up in the middle of October. Really, the reality of this is it's hard to beat a team twice in a season. And that's the norm. Alabama was victim to it. I think that's it. Oh no, Oklahoma was victim to it. Alabama in the SEC title game, Oklahoma in the first round of the playoff. It's hard to beat a team twice. Indiana does not conform to the norm. Boom, that rhymed. They do not conform to the norm. They're the exact opposite of the norm, where they're going to play smash mouth football. They're the more physical team up front. They are dominant. I'm going to take Indiana, but I'd love to see Oregon, Ole Miss in the national title game, Oregon, Miami. Really, any combination of these final 4 teams, I would love to see. Why? Well, number 1, there's no Ohio State in there. 2, there's no Michigan in there. I can just enjoy this because I actually think we have narrowed it down to the 4 best teams in the country. This is really what you envisioned when you had the 12-team playoff in mind. This is probably going to be the best you're ever going to get from it. So enjoy it while it's here. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of The Jackson Show. That's going to just about wrap it up. Today was a great episode. I always enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening to The Jackson Show. Don't forget to tune into the next episode. And as always, bring a friend.